Hey everyone, it's Joe Lyons here in Dallas, Texas.
Yeah, and Jackie here from Copenhagen, Denmark.
And on this short talk, I don't know how to really describe this. We were chit-chatting. We were having a conversation about life in general and what we've been working on and things. And we kind of started talking about how some people, we're talking more about employees, don't adopt certain technology, even when it's easily proven that it's faster and far superior at being more efficient. And we both agree there's lots of reasons why people don't adopt it, right? So we've had other talks about that, but we were trying to think of some things we could do to help ensure, especially if you're the one that has written the script, right? To help ensure that people do end up adopting if you have a better way to do something. And that was where we got to go. And where, Jackie, why don't we jump back in where you were talking about with your, I forget it was actually your company or whatever, but where you had the other software, just a little bit of background. You had a far superior system, and then not everyone's using it.
Yeah, we had a bit of a cumbersome process of people doing something manually, then telling others about what they had done. They would then start and digitalize that and send it off in emails to someone else in the company that would then take it and do something in one system, maybe prep some text that was supposed to be sent out to different customers or whatever, and a few more steps. I can't even remember all of them. And we had different systems to do each and every of the steps along the way. And I made a small program that would remove a few of those systems. They became redundant when you were able to just reduce it into a single interface where you would do it. And it helped a good bit, at least a good amount for people who were not that strong at using PC. They were very happy with it. And recently we got an even newer system from the IT department that had implemented something entirely new. And it incorporates the entire process. So instead of having all of these different systems, you would then just have one web interface with all of it there. And there has been testing and education and all the different steps and flags and whistles, and to kind of tell and teach people down here, the step you did, you will now log in here and do it here. Okay, the step that you priorly did, that's not really necessary anymore. That's automatic. Okay, so you're free to do other stuff. And the people over here that did that, you're still going in here and the stuff over there. Everything was in one system. Great piece of software. And for some reason, now that it's live and running, small parts of these enclaves and that are now incorporated in that are still doing their step in the old-fashioned way, which really doesn't make any sense anymore, because someone else will just have to do it, the digital parts of it. So it's really sad to see someone doing something that really helps and lessens the work and would make most of them faster at doing their step, and it being neglected because of something it's a little untangible or whatever you would call that. I can't put my finger on why they're not.
There's so many possible reasons,
Yeah.
right? There really are. Yeah. So anyway, let me jump back. So this is where, because my background's in statistics, right? And this is why, like, everything I do, and Jackie and I have been messing around with advertising and stuff. And I said, look, I love, like, especially Facebook ads stuff, because you have such great metrics. And it makes it so easy to measure A and B, split sample testing, all this stuff, right? And it was kind of like dawned on me, this is the same thing of like, look, when you actually implement this, what would be great? The problem is there's no metrics on different employees accomplishing the same process. Like there's no by person, how many did you get done, more often than not, right? And if you actually said, we're going to have these people, actually, maybe you don't even do that. You just keep track of how many each person gets done. And then someone monthly looks at that and says, hey, Fred is blowing everybody away, right? He's getting 10 times the amount of work done. What is he cheating the system? Is he doing this or that, right? And they look into it. They might realize he's using the new system. He's using the one, that was created to be using, and wow, you know what? We all need to adopt this, right? So part of it is if you're having a hard time getting people to adopt your stuff, maybe you create those groups yourself and say, hey, can we get 10 of your employees to adopt it, and we'll have 10 in the control group that don't, randomly selected in each one, and compare metrics on them over this time period and have a real nice metric, right, to measure how much difference in time it's making. Of course, you might want to let the new team have a couple, 2 or 3 days to warm up to get used to it, right? Because it's not fair to have that learning curve in the tool if they're going to stick with it. But this would be a great way to build it in there. And of course, the other thing, Jackie, is it's so easy when you're actually writing the script to build something to also, at least with your thing, to track, have metrics written somewhere for you, right? You can't maybe you can't do that with the other one. You probably can, but it'd be cool to be able to write that into your own, right? Writing a log file or something to keep track of what's actually been done. It makes it very easy to aggregate and give account of what's been done.
Yeah, I'd say with another task that I'm closer to at work than the one I just described, where we're trying to move the work that's being done from an old time project number system into a work order system. So if someone, let's say like electrician, he goes out to one of our installations somewhere and uses 5 hours on doing something, that's fine. He has done something, and with our old system, he would go into our work time system and find the project number that described that station, and if it was something that he was alleviating, or if it was for some reason I'm struggling with finding the correct English words right now, but if it was a task that he absolutely needed to do because it was something that was urgent, or if it was something that he could have put off to a later time, the project number he would use would differentiate.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's about the amount of differentiation there was. Yeah. Maybe 2, maybe 3 types of numbers he could use for work on that station.
Right.
Now with the new work order system, because it's a big reference matrix. So if let's say I was the one who created a work order for an electrician at that station, then the database system would know a lot more than just what the task was. Mm-hmm. It would also know where the money would be coming from, what project number it should be using, what type of person that did it, and whatever he registers on there. And there's different types of things that he needs to report, like what was the actual error, which part was it that was faulty, blah, 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 all kinds of stuff. And it doesn't really take much time to register. So instead of now knowing only that a person used 5 hours on doing something that was urgent or not, right. Now we know way more about what those 5 hours actually was. And it's been a hard battle, right? But the idea of getting it in there, all of the different metrics that you can pull out of that, and
Oh yeah.
we know that one of the issues that our employees has, that they of course don't want to be monitored too closely. Just
Sure.
okay, there's some monetization or whatever word you use for that. It's okay that someone has a general idea of what they're doing, but they of course don't wish to be measured on the minute base
Right.
types.
Yeah.
And that's okay. We still want humans to be the ones to do it, so they need to have room to wiggle, right? That's not what the system is supposed to be about. It's more like, oh, we actually had someone work on the pumps 4 times this year. Okay. And next year we are seeing them actually working on one of specific of the pumps 3 times. And the year after that became 4 or 5 times, or maybe they used 8 hours or whatever. The trend will kind of emerge. Whereas with the old system, where we just have the amount of people hours used on the station, not on specific parts of the station, not on anything else, but oh, so that it's gonna be some really useful information, and it's just not something that's easy to get people to do. When you have a company like the one that I'm at that has a specific size with a good amount of leadership layers,
Yeah.
maybe there's too many, I can't really say, but there's a lot. And when it's a vision or whatever you would call that from the very top, it kind of gets washed out before it
Sure.
gets to
It's the telephone game or whatever, right? Where, yeah.
yeah. So because there are so many layers, they're the closest to the people that need to do it are perhaps, in my book, being a bit too vague or unsure of how important it really is. And there's no doubt in my mind in the company per se, because I've talked almost up to the top, and it just needs to happen. So I don't know why it's not, but
Anyway, but yeah, back to your point, having all that level of metrics really does in the long run. It can help the company overall, right? And it honestly, even though I agree, and honestly, I've been there where I had to record how many hours I did on each project, which I didn't like doing. But I didn't like doing it. Not that I cared that they knew how much time I did. It was just a painful task to try to remember. It was. I didn't like the paperwork or the trying to figure it out. But when you actually have that, and you can show how much time you're taking to do X, Y, and Z project, you can have arguments of like, hey, I should automate this, right? Or it's worth, this is where I'm spending so much time, that we could knock it out, right? And I don't think you, generally speaking, you should be afraid unless you're goofing off, right? Then it's bad. But
and
yeah,
and the weird part of it is that because I'm not a team leader, I'm not specialist in their field or anything like that, and I'm not. I haven't been on the co-driver's seat of many of these people's cars or anything like that. So don't really have any true insight into what they're using their time on. But because it has taken so long for them to just get to any type of level of registering what they're doing, it becomes something of maybe they're goofing off. Just just because they're not able to put on paper they're not. Right? It's like a game of exclusion or whatever you would call that. If they were really doing so much so that they didn't have time to do the registration, fair enough. But after being there for 3 years, I know at least that is not the case. That much I know, just because I am actually there and I see them, and they don't have so much to do that they are not ever seen. Do you know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So if let's say they need to use half an hour a week on getting this done, they do have half an hour a week, just because that I know. So that's not it. And what can it then be? Then it's probably the same as with me when I have a stack of tasks that I need to do. The ones that are clearest are the ones that I can most easily attack, because I know exactly what I need to do. Mm-hmm. So I have, for maybe 2 years, I thought that maybe it was their knowledge level of what needed to happen within the system. So I've used a lot of my time on actually educating them and handholding and sitting there by them and whatever, making educational videos and manuals and
yeah.
And that didn't do it. So now I'm at more stuff, leader, team leaders, everybody, and right. So now I'm in a place where, are they just afraid of showing that there is a bit of goofing off that shouldn't be happening, or what is it?
Right.
Because I'm like, everybody seems to be competent people. Everybody seems to have stuff they need to do. I'm just not sure how much of the time they're working they're actually using on the tasks. And it's easy for them to make that visible. Just fill out the work orders. That's it. And there's nobody standing over them and saying, oh, that didn't take 3 hours. Why did you put 3 hours in there? You only used 2.5 hours on that.
Yeah.
That's not what's going on.
No, but you know what it gets back to, and that's where, to me, they realize when they go to document, they realize how long they have to write down on certain things, and they can't justify it themselves, right? Yeah. They're just like, that's embarrassing. Like, that doesn't, someone's going to look at that and go, what the hell?
And I'm like, I don't want to think that, because I really don't hope that's the case, but it's like,
yeah, you still have some hope for humanity left, but mine's all gone. Yeah.
It's just, I want most of them to actually be warned to get what I'm saying. I know for years that as soon as something doesn't get done, it's probably because nobody has the bandwidth to do it, or at least that's how it's presented, or that's the consensus. And then a company like mine goes out and hires one more electrician, one more engineer, one more something. And if the ones that were already there were only at 20% capacity, I'm unsure how too many we are in the company, right? Because I have worked at jobs where I was maybe only at 60%. So if that's the case, and for more people, that's a lot of percentages. And let's just say if you took 5 people and said, oh, they're all working at 70% or whatever, maybe if they took this small thing and that small thing and that small thing, they would be more like 90. So it's not unreasonably then 5 people could take more than one person's. To get what I'm saying?
Pick up
So
right.
with a company like mine, where there's more than 1,000 people to go around, and only about 200 of them, of the entire company, are actually people who have physical tools and make sure that the systems are working. All the rest are people like me, making sure some kind of IT system are working, or that people have someone to call, or that someone is greeted at the door, or food on the table at lunch. Whatever, people have all kinds of different types of tasks. But with an old company like mine, I'm like, how many of us are really needed? If you were able to measure it,
Yeah.
it's to me, it's like, if 200 people can't register their time in a work order system, and after seeing it for 3 years, it's maybe because they're not close to any types of full capacity. What about the rest of us? All of the rest of us that are in the offices.
Yeah, I get your point. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's just, it's probably human to have the. I think that people, or I saw some different write-ups on that people shouldn't be too booked, because then productivity also kind of declines. There should be some kind of balance. And in Denmark, there's a lot of work life balance thing going on, has been for quite a few years. So there's quite a good amount of structure to how much work one should be doing and how much free time one should have and all that types of stuff. And people have been quite efficient, but I'm like, we're moving into a time where the way that the Danish work force and all of our different agreements, and we have quite a good, what's that? Not labor, what's unions. That might be the right term, right? So there are not many rules set by the actual state.
Yeah.
Most of the work-life thing balances comes from the workers' unions and the employers' organizations, and they each year, or whatever, every 3 years or whatever it is, comes to some new agreements. And so we have some great agreements between us that we can rely on. And we have some really high salaries in Denmark as well. And we have some really high living costs, or really high taxes, however you want to put it. So if you moved from somewhere else to Denmark, your pension wouldn't last as long. So that's not a good idea. But living in Denmark and earning your salary in Denmark, that works fine. It's made to work that way. But being a tourist in Denmark, you would feel that everything was expensive, like, whoa. Right. But thinking about those different things, to me, just means that we are moving into a digital age where I could hire someone from India, or I could hire someone from Spain, or I could hire someone from Morocco. Exactly, and it wasn't even getting to that yet, but that's the next part of it. People are like, they're not scared of automation, but they're beginning to understand that, people who have it worse off are actually willing to move to Denmark just to get work here. Okay, so people from Poland and stuff, they can make maybe a month's worth of money in a week. So they can work maybe, who knows, 3 weeks out of a month and be home a week and still be making 3 times as much money by going to Denmark and doing it. And then maybe not even getting the same amount of pay as a Danish person. Who knows? Don't have the real insight into that. But that's just in that physical part where people are actually seeing the people from Poland or whatever country they're coming from. But in the digital space, if I need to have a logo made, I'll go online and check if someone can make me a logo. And I wouldn't even think to it being, oh, is that a Danish person? Oh, does he have the same amount of rules and regulations and whatnot when he
how
works?
in the world can he do it for $5? Oh, because he's somewhere else where $5 actually goes somewhere.
Yeah, and I'm just saying that if you take that into account, a lot of stuff will move that way slowly, because all the small companies, all the small fry, not companies my size, but smaller companies, that housewife over there who got that great idea to a web shop and she needed to have a website done, she's not going to call a Danish website agency when she can actually go online, find some that will do it for 1/10 of the price, perhaps. Even if communication is right now low, that will get better. In 5 years, you wouldn't even know.
And people listening are going to laugh at this is, I'd say 3/4 of the stuff that comes to me, people reach out to me for work. More often than not, I outsource it just because I don't have the bandwidth, and I know people that they're hungry and want to work, and they're better programmers anyway. So, I act as a middleman. I take a little cut, not always, but sometimes. It's like, you know what? It's crazy for me to try to do the work. It really is. When I can hire someone at a fraction of the cost. I'm used to making a lot of money, and I'm not worth that amount of money in programming. Because I don't feel comfortable charging that. Right? It's crazy to me. But I find people that are can do it for a good price. So I outsource myself, right? But it's funny.
I found out a few years back that to sit at my computer at home in the evening and do, let's just say it was AutoHotkey work for someone, if it was supposed to be freelance work that I could live off of, the amount that I would need to charge to cover all my expenses would need to be close to, I don't know, 1,200 Danish, so $200 an hour. And that's just cutting it from my head, right? And that's just because if I wish to have the exact same stuff as another Danish employed person, I would need to go that hard.
Wow.
And that's in AutoHotkey. So, get me right? So if I were to do it in some thing even more specialized or even deeper language, the amount needed to be even higher. So competing with that price on an international platform like the internet, that wouldn't work. So that's one of the things that I'm seeing as something will happen within some amount of time on that aspect of it.
All right. Well, I'm gonna unless you have some more. We've gone way around here.
Just rambling, but yeah.
But I still think it was some interesting stuff. All right, man.
Yeah.
I'll catch up with you next week.
Absolutely.
Bye.
Bye.